Professor Lesiba Joseph Teffo is the director of the School of Disciplinary Research Institutes at the University of South Africa. Ahead of the May 8 general elections here in South Africa, we decided to talk to him as a political scientist to find out just what the stakes are. What exactly is the electoral system in South Africa like? We understand there are general elections, but what does that mean?
Look, it's a fairly peculiar electoral system in the sense that we have political representation based on who the political party selects to go and represent the people. In essence, what is popular and well known on the African continent is direct representation, is constituency based, and I put a high premium on that. But with our system, while there is proportional representation, the people elect the party and the party decides on the people it deploys to parliament.
Who elects the president of the republic?
The president also, and that's really where the rub of the matter lies. The president is elected by the party and not by the people. But there is a pretense or a semblance of election in the sense that the majority party will rise in parliament to nominate somebody in among themselves, and usually it would be the leader of the party, and then a vote will be cast, and then the one who gets the majority votes will be the president. In that sense, it will be the one that has won the majority votes. But it is that person is elected by the 400 parliamentarians rather than the 50. Right now we have got 27 million people due to vote. The right thing would be the 27 million people should elect the person to lead them.
You mentioned 27 million likely voters, but we understand probably just 10 million could go out and vote. Is there an issue of voter apathy in this 2019 election?
Well, voter apathy is there. There's no doubt about that, and it became very evident in 2014 because the people were becoming unhappy with the ruling party. And that's not unusual. You know, liberation movements at most stay in power for 20 years. From there, it's almost by hook or crook. And the reason for that is are the sins of incumbency. Corruption sets in, nepotism, cronyism, and alienation from the electorate. These are the characteristics or the traits that led to the downfall of many liberation movements. And in the African National Congress is also faced with those challenges. And people who loved it so much, who voted overwhelmingly, decided, a good number of them, to vote through their feet or to stay away from the election, alternatively to go and form their own parties.
What to you are the main challenges of these elections?
Look, for now, I would say, comparatively speaking, the campaigning has been very positive. I commend all the political parties. Even the rhetoric, even up to yesterday, they keep emphasizing we have to work together. We have to find a common place. Vulgar language and violence is not what we are preaching and is condemned in many ways. And that in the previous years, there were some instances that blighted the process. But for now, I would say we don't have that much of that. In fact, one could say it's almost too good to be true. Let's hope that there isn't something latent that might explode on the day of the election. The challenge for me is, will we see people stand up and go and vote on that day? Because there is a sense that, yes, Ramaphosa started well, but somehow that popularity is waning. And if one were to follow the logic of yesterday, if it is no longer that popular, again, ANC voters, loyalists and supporters may not go to vote.
What are the possible trouble spots, given that there are already reports or incidents of violence around these elections?
There are also communities that vowed not to participate. Well, that's fine, that's their democratic right. I worry more when they say they don't want even any semblance of ICC officials or paraphernalia in their space. They declared that the schools that were used yesterday as voting stations are not going to be available. Hence, the government, not the government, the IEC decided to invite the army to provide security as well as the tents that would be turned into voting stations. That's one. The second point, you also have hotspots where there is a potential for violence given the fighting for turf, political contestation, also political intolerance. That is in KwaZulu-Natal, where a few souls have been lost because of political differences, and you also then have the Northwest. But in the Northwest, it's not so much about bloodletting, but it's more about political turf. Who's going to be in and who's going to be out. And I think the Minister of Police have set his eyes on that.
Professor Lesiba Joseph Teffo, thanks for accepting to talk to CRTV.